we will come back to the first question. The most significant achievement of modern law in India is the constitutionalization of environmental problems by Supreme Court. So discuss this statement with the help of relevant case laws. So important cases, important judgments, so all those things if you don't write, so you will lose marks here. So now, what introduction will you write for this? Any quote, any judgment which are important? Okay. Yes. Yes. Any. So you judgment will put it in the body. So what quote you will put? Introduction में. Anything. Role. Okay. Okay, but judiciary is taking the preempt actions. Okay. Okay. So overall comprehensive Mahatma Gandhiji's quote. Okay. So instead of like mention nowadays Supreme Court of India is for becoming Supreme Court for Indians. Now, like the Supreme Court is catering to every needs of the people. So immaterial of whether you can get justice in legislature, whether you will get laws passed. You put one PIL, you will get law. So that is how it is going on. So environment, when it is becoming a problem, so Supreme Court has become a major grievance redressal machinery and the problem solving agent rather than anyone else. So with that you can begin. Okay. So now body. Heading, which of the cases are Supreme Court has come up with so many cases for the constitutionalization of environment. So it means like some cases have been dealt in the constitution benches. So 7 judges and above have dealt environmental cases. So that is how constitutionalization of environmental laws. So some environmental issues have been attached to fundamental rights. So they have been attached to right to life. So now it is constitutionalization of environment. So now we will start giving cases. So after introduction, we briefly discussed what is constitutionalization of environment, and now start giving cases. So case number 1, MC Mehta case. So what happened in MC Mehta case? Attached to environment. So right to free air, free water, etc. is equivalent to right to life. Okay. So now it is like the government should take up the environmental cases with high priority, so that any violation of environment will directly lead to violation of fundamental rights, and now the people can approach Supreme Court directly. Okay, so that was and you can bring in Article 32 also there, and then one more case after MC Mehta. Yes. Principle of precautionary. Yes. So like instead of environment becoming a cure, we are going to prevent them. So instead of we destroying the environment and then curing that, so Supreme Court said that, so you take the precaution before the dam becomes overflown and before the flood occurs. So you take a precautionary measure, and then so most of the damages, your relief works, expenditures on disaster management, everything will be solved there. Okay. So any other cases? Yes. So like say familiar cases so that everyone will understand. So give Jallikattu case. Yes. So in Jallikattu case, the right to life, dignified life was attached to animals as well. So even animals have a right to dignified life. Okay. So give Taj trapezium case. So in the issue of Taj Mahal being polluted, or might be the Taj dome being disfigured or discolored. So Supreme Court said you have to clean Taj Mahal within 4 years. Or Ganga cleaning case. So Supreme Court said within 4 years you have to clean Ganga. And Manmohan Singh government said, मैं कपड़ा सब भेज दूंगी clean करने. So like at that point of time, so Supreme Court was very proactive in environment. Okay. So then we have given some 4 to 5 cases. So anything related to environment like Delhi air pollution case you can give, or might be Madhuri Dixit filed PIL for 5G. So 5G is harming the birds, and however the PIL got rejected. Okay, any such cases which are related to environment and the petition was filed and Supreme Court took it seriously, you can give them. Okay, so yes, so National Green Tribunal. So it is the question asked about Supreme Court. So any appeal from NGT to Supreme Court is valid. NGT case per se we can't quote here. Okay. So then conclusion. So you can, yes. Okay. Okay. So the necessity was the mother of invention. Now environmental problems are increasing. So because of necessity, Supreme Court has come. Or maybe you can say like Justice Bhagavati's quote, nature aborts vacuum. So why Supreme Court is getting into environmental issue? Because there is a vacuum created. Legislature is not taking so much of steps. And to abort that vacuum, Supreme Court is getting into environmental issues. Okay. So you can quote them or anything related to, or you can say that in the garb of constitutionalizing, Supreme Court is becoming overactive. So some impractical judgments like cleaning Ganga within 4 years is not so practical. So such things should be awarded by the Supreme Court. So you can quote that also. So Supreme Court doesn't work in the practical ground reality. So it will work in the philosophical or legal world. So that also you can give in conclusion. Okay. So considerably easy ones and not so difficult as well. Now, right to right of movement and residence throughout the territory of India are freely available to the Indian citizens, but these are not absolute command. Yes, freedom of movement, settlement, profession, all these are not absolute rights. Okay, so now movement and residence. So give one introduction for this. Article 19 clause. Yes. Okay, 19 plus 2 to 6. Okay, so like what are the reasonable restrictions that you will put here? So what are the restrictions for freedom of movement and residence? Okay, so now constitution में क्या clauses है? Yes, sixth schedule. So that is ILP only almost. Okay, so any health, national security. Okay, so health, national security and order. So these are the restrictions for freedom of movement and residence. So Article 19 clause 2 to 6, they prescribe about freedom of movement and they say that on the criteria of national security, health and order, so we can restrict. And now coming to body, so in which all cases, so first will be your point. So inner line permit, so to protect the cultural integrity of the tribal people. Now we have to make sure that the movement in the tribal areas, sixth schedule areas, some parts of fifth schedule areas, so they have to be curbed. And then coming to health, so during your lockdowns, the freedom of movement was curbed, and so despite of so many laws or despite of so many difficulties, we have to follow because so that movement doesn't come with absoluteness. Then any other AIDS patients, so they can't move. Okay, okay, done. So anything related to health, so finish off in the health heading itself. Okay, then. It is a yes. Now coming to order issue. So if someone is charged under serious crimes or maybe is charged under national sabotage, terrorism, etc. So their right to movement or any accused who is on bail. So crimes, yes. So previous crime precedents. So if antecedents of crime, so they cannot move out of the nation. So their movement is restricted, or maybe they have to attempt the police station and they have to acknowledge their presence. So to uphold the law and order, so there will be freedom of curbing of the freedom of movement. Yes. Our tribe. Force. Yes. For that inner line permit argument. So in the inner line permit, like, so we cannot assimilate the tribe forcibly. So let them do it voluntarily. Okay. Okay. Done. Then any other cultural issue? How? Example. Tribal, like inner line permit. So that came with the culture. So we finished off the tribal culture and heritage. We finished off health. We finished off the order. Okay. So any other examples? Jammu Kashmir. Yes. So how you will write it here? Yes. Yes. So like, so we removed Article 370 and we made sure that so any person can go and settle there. But however, the domicile law came, and the domicile law puts some restrictions for the movement and settlement. So you bring in the removal of 370 and also bring in that domicile law. So both of them we can. Okay. So any other? So here we restrict to movement and residence. Okay. Employment we will not. Okay. Yes. So yes, so freedom of movement and residence will be restricted in the hilly areas. Okay, so to protect their locality and pristine culture. Okay, so then any other reasons? How example? Any example? Okay, okay. So enough. Five arguments we have given. Okay, yes. No, no, these are the valued, like you, without examples, you cannot show them. Yes. Like you will say health and you will give example. You will say order, law and order, you give example. So your argument will go the same way. Like you give one argument in support of that, you substantiate. So unsubstantiated argument, you cannot say like because of health. Health is a very important subject in our life. That is why it is restricted. Order is also important. It is restricted. So you won't get that the support. So when you play the chess, so you will keep king, and behind that you will have a bishop for support. You will have a queen for support. So that is how, for your argument, substantiation should come. Okay. So conclusion. Okay. So like the whole fundamental rights cannot be absolute. So in the means of our financial constraints, ground realities, or any other things, international obligations, so we have to go for necessary modifications. Yes. Okay. Then, to what extent, in your opinion, has decentralization of power in India changed the governance landscape at grassroots? Okay, so your opinion. So don't write only the decentralization which is there in the book. So give yours. So whether do you feel decentralization has happened, whether you feel it has not happened, so both of them you can give. So introduction. Amendment. Okay. So with the 73rd, 74th amendment, we brought in the local self-governments both in rural and urban areas. So that was the harbinger. Okay. So you can say that when Jawaharlal Nehru, he laid the foundation stone for local self-government. So where did he lay the foundation stone? In which state? Rajasthan. So Rajasthan was first state to bring in local self-government. And when he laid the foundation, he said, so we are opening the doors of the democracy in India. So the true democracy is being opened with the opening of local self-governments. So bring in such courts. So all these, whenever you get newspaper article on the 73rd, 74th amendment, so editorials, people they write these courts. So that is how you have to make sure that you will bring it into the answer. Then, now, is it going to happen or the decentralization hasn't occurred? So what is your opinion? Okay, so only political level in the constitution books it is, not in the reality. Okay, any other? Yes. Okay, so regional differences are there in devolution, decentralization. Yes. Okay. So how? मतलब decentralization हुआ है. If it is changing, it is okay. Then. Okay. Okay. Done. Okay. Nice. Nice. Okay. So will you call it decentralization? मुझे नहीं लगता क्योंकि डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन इज डिफरेंट रिजर्वेशन इज देयर इन सेंट्रल स्टेट लोकल में so we will structure this as per funds functions and functionaries so decentralization happens through three means of funds functions and functionaries okay so what are funds funds are nothing but finances functionaries. So, how much finance commission is giving for local governments, or how much taxation money we are giving to the local governments, or how much taxation power we are giving to local government. So, all these are the funds. So, how many 11th and 12th schedules are actually with the local governments? So, how many the state has acquired forcibly and it is not leaving them to work properly? So that comes with funds. Then comes functions. So if there is a program, say we have Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan or we have MG Narega scheme. So this is a huge function. It starts from central government and it ends with local. In that, how many functions central government should do, how many functions state should do, how many functions local government should do, and in that, what percentage of functions you are giving to the local governments. So usually it is 90% of functions by center and state. So 10% is local. Say Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. So what kind of functions for local governments? Sabji lena for midday meal scheme. So all these ration state government will give. Only vegetables, oil, salt you will bring. And those functions इससे अच्छा है कि मत ही करो तो करना ही नहीं है. So those ones. Then functionaries. So how many public employees are specifically recruited in local self governance? So no one virtually. So starting from Panchayat Development Officer, Block Development Officer, DC, PO of Jilla Panchayat, every person are recruited by the state government or central government. They are sent on a deputation. So they will be working in local self government, but they'll be earning salary from either state or central government. So now, do you have a village administrative service just like Indian administrative service or state administrative services? Or do you have city administrative service like Noida administrative service officer, NAS? No one. So these are functions and functionaries. So you will argue on these lines. So coming to funds. Yes. District selection. So all those they will only recruit temporary officers, not permanent ones. So only your computer operators, clerks. So only those. Okay. Funds. So here right, only some 4.3% of funds of 15 Finance Commission is being devoted to local self governments. Okay. So that 4.3 is very less. Okay. So you can say that funds are not being devolved properly. Okay. And only some 20 to 25% of 11th and 12th schedule powers are being given to local self governments, and all these are hijacked by the state governments. Okay. So there is one decentralization index that goes on. Decentralization index, all of you go through this. So when is the Panchayat Raj Divas in India? 24th April. On 24th April, so Government of India will release this decentralization index. It will show how much funds, functions, functionaries we have developed. And April month, mostly your Yojana Kurukshetras will come with the local self government articles. So read them and collect some facts and use them in your answers. So, okay. Then coming to functions. So most of our programs are flooded with centrally sponsored schemes, sir, and central sector schemes and they will come with a pre-plan, and they won't come with proper flexibility. Okay, so tied grants and central sponsor schemes and central sector schemes. So they are also clogging local self-governments, and even the state has been bypassed many times. Forget about local. So now this also has to change. Okay, and also new schemes like your aspirational district program. So it is coming directly from the center. So a secretary level officer, Prabari officer will come from center and he will inspect the village. So those things they are not allowing autonomy to the villages. And then functionaries, as I said, there is no dedicated services. So there is no village service, there is no district service. Likewise, there are only national services, all India services, and state services. Okay, there are absolutely no dedicated services, permanent employees of local self governments. So these 3 to 4 arguments you write. Then, however, some changes are going on. Okay, so some latest devolutions are going on. Autonomy is given. So now give positive examples. Positive examples how. So some states they have gone beyond constitution and they have given 50% reservation for women. So actually criteria is 33%. So which state gave 50%? Bihar, Haryana gave. Haryana has also given. Madhya Pradesh given. So that is autonomy. So how much autonomy you are giving? So that one. Okay. Then any other positives? Yes. Kanik Kshetra Kalyan Yojana and District Mineral Fund. So these local funds have been set up. Okay. So we have the farmers producers organization in villages. So the local parastatals, the local organizations are being set up. Okay. So they are also giving autonomy for so many villages. Okay. So then any others? Any other devolutions going on? District planning committees? Yes. So one more, like Government of India has come up with model panchayat development plans. Gram panchayat development plans. That is, the panchayat Raj, they will develop their own plans. It is not like it will come from the Niti Ayog and then to state planning boards and then it is transferred. So there is no trickle down. They will develop their own plans. We are going for local SDGs. So sustainable development goals are now set for every village, not only for globe, so for every village. So all these are latest ones. So you can add it here. Okay. So you can treat that as a way ahead. However, so many changes are going on. So all these, and we have village specific citizens charters, so which are being constructed. So all those we can write it here. So any governance, it is like you can flood so many facts. So better choose mind maps, choose flowcharts in governance related questions. So avoid explanations because there is no too much to explain. So if you just write one fact, 15th FC, 4.3% of devolution, more than enough. Okay, so likewise. So better, so how you choose matters. So I told like 7.5 minutes, 10 marker, but you don't have so much. You can finish off this within 5 minutes and you can give good number of facts if you go with mind maps. So you can clash on this question. So very easy question. You cannot afford to waste time here. Okay. Then discuss the role of Vice President of India as the Chairman of Rajya Sabha. Yes. So whatever Lakshmikant says, you can write here. Over and above, you will give good examples. Okay. So what incumbents did. So what Amit Ansari did, what Venkaiah Naidu did, what BD Jesse did. So all those. If you give 1 or 2 examples, so that itself is value addition. So your current affairs knowledge will be shown. So now, introduction to Vice President. So that we will write in conclusion now. So better any thing regarding Vice President. So what is he or what functions does he have? Second in command. Okay. So Vice President being the second in command. So he not only has the decoral or the celebrative position, but he also has a responsible position as a head of chairman of Rajya Sabha because president doesn't have those positional powers. So he has only the decorum and celebrative powers. Okay, so that one additional power he is being vested with vice president, so that you can add. Okay, now the role of vice president. Okay, your points. Your heading role of vice president. Yes. So as a chairman, so he will be the sole coordinator and sole custodian of the rules of procedure for Rajya Sabha, and he will ensure the implementation of that in letter and spirit. So might be introduction of bill, passing of bill, or might be the censure measures, or might be policy measures. So all those things he will be taking up. Okay. So and then any other roles? In case of defection, so he will be taking the sole responsibility in Rajya Sabha. Okay. Then, in case of impeachment of president, so when the motion is passed in Lok Sabha and when it comes to Rajya Sabha, now vice president decides whether it has to be moved further or not. So there were some motions to remove Chief Justice of India, and Venkaiah Naidu said, "I am not going to move this further." So most probably Ranjan Gogoi case, I guess. Okay. So in Ranjan Gogoi's case, he said, "I'm not going to move." So such examples you have to give. Okay. And when a censure motion was about to be passed on Nirmala Sitharaman, and that was also blocked. Okay. So all these, this is the power of incumbency. Like you can use the power with effectiveness, and you can also use it like a ritualistic one. So powers come and go, but powerful people, so they will be standing in the pages of history. So whatever they have did, so that you will mention here. Okay, so that is why that when you read newspapers, small incidents, so these will come to handy in value addition. So there is lot of difference between reading a ready-made material and reading daily newspapers. Okay. Then any other role of vice president? Yes. So like recently the suspension was also in news. So in case of absenteeism, in case of creating ruckus, so they can penalize persons, they can suspend some. Okay. So that also is a role. And coming to parliamentary committees. So in which all parliamentary committees which are specific to Rajya Sabha, so he is going to spearhead the elections, and if in some part, if he is a member of committee, he will be presiding that committee. Okay. So such ones. Okay. Then any other role as a chairman of Rajya Sabha? Okay. So first point you will explain in detail. So how throughout the functioning of Rajya Sabha he will be there, and others you can just brief with examples. Then conclusion. So bring in Sarkaria Commission, bring in Punchi Commission, say that what role the chairman should do, and whether he should resign or whether he should be a political person, and in case of say defections, what he has to do. Okay. Or the as a whole, Sarkaria Commission says give equal powers to Rajya Sabha as well. Okay. In that aspect, the chairman he should be vociferous. He should ask for more powers of Rajya Sabha. Okay, so many times. See, like when 73rd, 74th Amendment was passed, so Rajya Sabha didn't speak up anything because the state voice. So the state governments know that other the 74th, if you third 74th amendments come, so पहले हमको काटा होना है because our autonomy will be reduced. They will be taken up and given to local self governments. No one spoke, and Rajiv Gandhi tried many times to pass these local self-government amendments, and Rajya Sabha was the main block. So these things should not happen in Rajya Sabha. And recently Rajya Sabha is being bypassed many times. Other bill was bypassed as a money bill. So such things are a blot on the chairman. So better he will be seeing like, so I am being degraded. And when Venkaiah Naidu was about to become, so first when the offer came, he refused. He said, "Na, मुझे और भी politics करना है." So that means giving position of chairmanship, he is end of political career. So after that, you will be given one Sarkari bungalow phone, and your political career will be finished. Okay. So such ones. Why such things? Okay, you can write comment on those also. Okay. So conclusion, any one conclusion you can give. Chairman being a chairman, he should strive for more powers of Rajya Sabha. So that you can write. Okay. Then discuss the role of National Commission for Backward Classes in the wake of its transformation from statutory body to constitutional body. So you will say the article which establishes this one, 338B. Okay, in which year it was? 2018. Okay, so how many years have passed? Three and a half years. Okay, so now after three and a half years of enactment and implementation, so what changes do you see? So now at this point of time, if you don't provide good examples, so you will not get good marks. You will just say that it is just recommendatory in nature. So they don't have proper autonomy. So those things will not carry good marks because it says the performance. Okay, how it is transforming from statutory to constitutional. What work it is actually doing now. So that is being asked. Okay, so we'll see how your answer body. So success stories of NCBC as a constitutional body. Your side. So first time in the history of India, one committee was set up for categorization of OBCs. So 75 years we didn't have categorization when NCBC came. So now we got sensitized and Rohini committee, yes, was set up for categorization, and we are doing some attempts to define the backward class. So what is a backward class is not yet defined. So who is higher backward class, lower backward class? So nothing is defined. So now we are going to have some codification of law. So that we can say is one of the success of NCBC. Then any other points? So this is of these points you know how to link. Yes. 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 NCST. Okay. Grievance redressal. So see, like when NCBC was a statutory body, the grievance redressal of backward classes were looked into by NCSC. The NCSC was looking into the grievance redressal. Now it has got the grievance redressal power. So one good example is like in Telangana when one couple was killed due to intercaste marriage. So NCBC officials they went to that spot and inspected that. So that showed like a constitutional body can come from all the way from Delhi to Telangana and can inspect. So that is the level of grievance redressal that is going on. So it happened like girl she married a person from another caste and she was relieving herself in the washroom. Father entered, he slit her throat and came out. Okay, so that heinous crime was tackled by NCBC. So when such see in Saturday Hindu, so you will get that full story. So you will read those stories. So those will come into handy. So this is how you will link those facts. If you don't read them, so like it is recommendatory in nature, it will submit reports. Only those answer will come. Okay. Then any other transformation from statutory to constitutional body? Yes. Yes. Okay. Now it is. Yes. And now the power goes to backward class. So tell me which are the backward class added to the NCBC list now recently. Parliament. Okay. Hmm. Yes. Yes. So tell me. Yes. So now when the power became very transparent, so tell me some new castes which are being added. So from Assam, some 2 to 3 castes are being added. Okay. Yes. Okay. So 30 from Himachal Pradesh. Okay. So give such caste and make sure how it is working. Okay. Then any other? Yes. Like so how that statutory to constitutional. So, powerful body. So, so we can use it in conclusion. Okay, so that can be okay. So any other how it is transforming from statutory to constitution, or maybe it has become more powerful. Okay, so we can say that. So in the context of socio-economic caste census, so NCBC vociferously said that, so please publish the report. Okay, so when states were asking for that, so our Poltu Chacha was asking, and he went away from BJP and he joined Tejasvi Prasad. So that socio-economic caste census was the sole reason why he went away. And NCBC can take some lead role and they can make sure that the caste census should be released. Okay, then any other? Okay, then conclusion. Conclusion, toothless tiger. So whether it is like we conclude with any prospective idea. Okay. So in the growing era of clamor for reservation by Jats, Kapus, and Patidars, so NCBC should be the sole authority which can decide. Okay, because they are the expert bodies and they have the databases. So let them decide. So as a constitutional body, they should be given the responsibility for that. We can conclude. Okay. Then the Gati Shakti Yojana needs meticulous coordination between the government and private sector to achieve the goal of connectivity discussed. So give brief introduction about Gati Shakti Yojana. Okay. So what it is? Yes. So it is a portal connecting all 16 ministries, including roadways and railway ministries. That will help in the speedy and timely construction of infrastructure and their maintenance. Okay. Now, so how the government and private coordination should happen? So how should both coordinate? Yes. HAM model. Okay. HAM model can be framework. Okay. So we should go for HAM model. Okay. Then any other argument? PPP, yes. Not only HAM, we can go for PPP, bot model, MOT, anywhere. Okay. So tell me how the context, why it is being asked. Yes. Reduce the logistic cost. Okay, then. Okay. So how that public private, how it comes? Okay, in the context of Gati Shakti. Okay. So now how we will answer this? See, you introduced with Gati Shakti and now we will write the context. In the context of Gati Shakti, we came up with National Infrastructure Pipeline and National Monetization Pipeline. In that, so there are so many infrastructure which were unauctioned. So government auctioned it to private, private didn't come to take. Government, private took it uh, seriously only in hotspot areas. So might be in metropolitan cities or huge infrastructure were taken. So but every railway station in every district or might be every bus stand, so they were not being taken by private because the profit motive weren't there. Okay, in that context, so how the government and private should coordinate. So now we can answer the things. So one is, so in your HAM, PPP, etc. So we should strike a balance between the pressures and pulls of the private and government. So land acquisition issue it might be, or might be the profit sharing, revenue sharing. So all those things should be settled in the concessionaire agreements. So when you write all these things, so it is like an expert answer or might be a formal answer. So you should not write. So in HAM we should coordinate properly. In BOT we should coordinate properly. In Swiss Challenge we should coordinate properly. So you won't get good marks there. So the issues which are being hampering. So those if you deal well, so then it is like we can have a good scheme in national infrastructure pipeline. Okay. Then next. So what other arguments you can give here? Yes. So now the sole government properties, so now they are being privatized. So at this point of time, the coordination is required. So proper service providing. Okay. So how Vande Bharat Express? So that will coordinate with the Duronto and Rajdhani. Okay. So how they will compete each other at the same time? They cooperate each other. Or maybe in case of disasters. So whenever there is a collapse of a bridge or any collapse of any infrastructure, how public and private both of them will they equally share. So one flyover collapsed in Kolkata, and the constructor said, "I have no responsibility for that because mine was a LLP, mine was limited liability partnership." So in that limited liability, you have a clause of limited liability. So when I am being made liable, so it is limited to me only for man-made disasters, not for natural. So I don't know how it happened and I'm not responsible. So such hiccups should not happen in the Gati Shakti scheme. And moreover, the delay in projects either by government or by the private, so all those things should be stopped. Or might be we should facilitate the private, might be in terms of the auctioning of land, or might be proper compensation for land acquisition, or might be the choice of materials, choice of plants and technology, and the deadlines and maintenance after construction. So all those things should be settled peacefully. So this you cannot write in discrete points. You can write it in 3 to 4 paragraphs, but use apt keywords and use apt examples, as I said, like Kolkata LLPs. So all those things. And in the conclusion, we can say that so new infrastructures are being built in the wake of smart cities mission. So now at that point, so Gati Shakti, smart cities, public, private, all should be included, and also go for PP 4Ps, public, private, people's partnership. Okay, so this community, so these are being neglected in our Gati Shakti scheme. So we have to take them into consideration. Okay, so you can write this way. So a GS3 come GS2 mix question. Okay, then the Right of Person with Disabilities Act 2016 remains only a legal document without intense sensitization of government functionaries, okay, and citizens regarding disability. So now, like the overall, the question says the law is giving something as a bookish philosophy, and nothing the ground level change or sensitization is happening. Okay, so how will you answer this? Okay, so we will start with what the act gives now. So in the introduction, what the Person with Disabilities Act gives. Okay, so it gives with a commissioner for person with disabilities at the center and state level, and that commission will look after the reports, and it comes with a project called Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan, and in that Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan, so we have a target like by 2030. So we are going to finish half of the building with the we will along with staircases we are giving ramps, we are giving lifts. So for all those locomotive disorder people, so 50% of the government buildings should have the stair facilities. Okay, so lift and the ramp facilities should be there. And then by 2050, so almost all government and 50% of private buildings should do that. So all these targets are being kept for Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan, but those targets are not being met properly. So that is what the question says. Like citizens are not taking actively and the targets are not being completed. Only it is like we are setting the committees, we are setting up the commissions, and we are leaving and we are not taking the additional steps. So we also have the Person with Disabilities Management Fund. So that fund is least being spent. So no one is spending properly on that. Okay, so just like Nirbhaya fund we have, only Delhi spent only 9% of the fund. So here also those funds are not being spent. Okay, so give a brief introduction on the act, and then say about Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan, and then say your arguments like one is the targets are not being met properly, and second one, so the funds, the person which disabilities funds. So they are not being spent. So there is so much of tendency in the works, and the citizen as a whole is not being disabled friendly right now. So as some of you said, like, so in every organization might be the toilets or minute things, or might be so our buses, so city buses, or maybe no buses are locomotive friendly. Okay, so no bus have a ramp. So how to climb into that? So metros are disabled friendly, but not your buses. So might be the disabilities are being sensitized only in the top class citizenry, not in the bottom class. So grassroots level it is not being percolated. So because of might be a financial constraint or any other. Okay. And then so even in terms of reservation to public employment and others, so very meager representation of person with disabilities are present because lack of accessibilities and awareness among themselves. So they don't know that there is a reservation in UPSC, so there is a reservation in state PSC, and even if they know, they don't know that the cutoff is huge difference. So you have only 65 to clear if the general merit cutoff is 87. So that thing you don't know. If they get to know that, so more and more people will come and compete in that. So at least their quota, 3 to 4% of quota, will be filled up. So out of 600, 3 to 4%, how much? 3% of 600, 18, 180. So 18 seats. 18 seats should be filled up. So likewise, so you will write them, and lastly you will say that so it is not only government, every citizen. So we should be sensitized towards that. So the name change from Viklang to Divyang. So it has brought a considerable behavioral change, but that has to be percolated to the grassroots. Okay. Then okay. Reforming the government delivery system through direct benefit transfer scheme is a progressive step, but it has limitations too. So again, how many facts you will give? So data, all those things matter. So direct benefit transfer, what is that scheme? So you will write it there. Okay. So direct benefit scheme was facilitated by Jam Trinity. So Jandan, Aadhaar and mobile number was unified, and after that the direct benefit transfer was started. And in various schemes, the direct benefit transfer has been checked. MG Narega scheme DBT has been checked, and sometimes some states have checked it in PDF also. Instead of giving ration, so we try giving money, and they have seen that. And direct benefit transfer has been seen in COVID times. So when they gave for Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, so 500 rupees was a direct benefit transfer. Fertilizer subsidies are given as direct benefit transfer. Okay, so there are so many schemes which are being coming up with DBTs. So you can put a block diagram like this, DBT and which are the schemes. So MG Narega, PDS, fertilizer subsidies, all those you can mention there. Yes. In Kisan Samman Nidhi, Swanidhi, yes. So in all those. Okay, and now, yes, it is like how it is reforming. So reforming successes or reforming of the government civil delivery and challenges. So give 3 points here, 3 points here. So success, your side. No leakage of funds, you can give Rajiv Gandhi's quote, like 1 rupee. So released in central government is resulting in 60 paisa reaching to the public. So that we have avoided. Okay. So like in MG Narega alone, so overall 60,000 crores have been saved. Okay. So because of DBT. Then next, any other farmers? How? So how DBT specifically? The argument is good. How DBT? Okay. 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 So money तो दे देंगे, but DBT how? See, like when you go for the direct benefit transfer, earlier what used to happen? So the funds or might be the fertilizers used to come in the name of the owner of the land. But now in the wake of land reforms 2.0, now the tenant is the owner. So now DBT makes sure that not to the owner, it should come to the account of the tenant. So the money will fall directly to the tenant. So this is, yes, channelization is regulated. So earlier, so what was going to the owner, now it is going to the tiller. Or might be if you are going for the any land lease agreements, so the subsidy should go for the land leasee. So it should not go for the owner. So that pilferage has been stopped here. Okay. And DBT in PDS. So it is leading to increasing choice of the people. So they can procure the grains they want rather than giving atta for everyone. Okay. So they will be having their own choice. So the choice in PDS has been increased. Okay. Then middleman. Okay. Best example is your G1 Praman Yojana. So your old age pension scheme. So Buzurg log, they can't come out and they can't stand in queue. So now if 300 rupees released, Panchayat Development Officer will keep 100 and he will give remaining, and Postmaster will keep 100. So when 300 comes, so for them 10 rupees will come. Okay. So in old age pension schemes, the leakages and pilferages. So now once the money is transferred, so message will come to them. Okay. So pilferages and middleman in old age pension schemes. Okay. Any others? Delays. Technology resulted in speedy delivery. See, like we have 27% of delay, 25% of the engineering beneficiaries. They said money comes with delay. So I did work this year, money is coming next year. So that delay is being curbed because of DBT. Now, coming to challenges. So it is not devoid of limitations. So what are the limitations for them? Other purposes, like, so we thought you will purchase so many other grains, but you are purchasing Bacardi, Budweiser. Okay. So again, the pilferage is huge. Then, yes, yeah, measures you will write in conclusion. So now you will write limitations. No, like you will say that in conclusion. But question says like there are limitations. You say there were limitations, and then you will say. So you cannot say that everyone have been transformed now. So the system is system. Okay. So then banking system is not so good. So not everyone has bank accounts. Not everyone has linked Aadhaar card with bank account. So now the reaching to the beneficiary is a problem. Internet connectivity is a problem. Yes. Okay. So you can mention Amartya Sen and Jean Rees. So these people, they say repetitively that don't go for biometric authentication for PDS because internet connectivity is a problem. Okay. So many times we have spoken like, so when PDS ration was being booked, he had a thumb. Uske baad kaata gaya. So now it is like he is not getting PDS. So that technological backwardness. So that is again a problem. Okay. So then any others? Awareness. Lastly, we can say lack of awareness about the digitalization problem. Then now we can say that there are steps being taken to neutralize these limitations. So we have been making the Jandan account free of cost. The awareness has been created to open more and more accounts. Aadhaar linkage has been made mandatory. So all these you can mention. Okay. So with way ahead you can conclude this governance. Governance you can bring good way ahead. Okay. So okay. Okay. Then discuss the procedure to decide the disputes arising out of election of a member of parliament or state legislature under Representation of People Act. What are the grounds on which election of any returned candidate might be declared void? So what remedy is available to the aggrieved party against the decision? Okay, so now your ground reality, how many days you have read newspaper during election times, all these will come to handy because no one will prepare for this one. Okay, so if you hit in Google all these, so no material of UPSC will be coming. Okay, now the dispute arising out of election. When there is a dispute, so what are the steps that are being taken? So you can start with election is a festival of democracy. S.Y. Qureshi, former election commissioner, famous statement of him. Okay, now, so S.Y. Qureshi's quote, then procedure to resolve the disputes. To resolve disputes, yes. Yes, High Court. So we have election petitions. So election petitions are the sole grievance redressal measures like presidential election. If there is any dispute, so direct original jurisdiction is there with Supreme Court, and MP election, Supreme Court, sorry, High Court. Okay, all MP MLA election, High Court have the original jurisdiction to receive the election petitions. So write the election petition here in brief. Presidential elections, the Supreme Court original jurisdiction, and MP MLA elections, High Court's original jurisdiction. All other lower elections, we have the district courts. Okay, so when election petition is filed, so the case will be declared on a speedy basis. Okay, so just like you have the fast track courts, and it will be resolved. So these are the ones. And now second part. Okay, under Representation of People Act, so on what grounds the election of a returned candidate is being declared void? So return means he has already won. The election results have come, he has won. So on what complaints? So his election will be nullified. Yes. Assets. So if his assets are in en masse and if he has declared it wrongly, first one, then yes. Second one, wrong declaration of his income in the nomination file. So in his nomination, he will declare all those. Then, if there are complaints of ballot stuffing, rigging, etc. So after election, if they say that, so he has won in these illegal means. Okay. Criminal records, if he is proved with a criminal antecedent, so if some of his case was in the court during elections, and if he is being convicted for those criminal offense, convicted, violation of model code of conduct. So in the model code of conduct it is written, so will not use the previous government car while campaigning. So once the election notification comes, MLAs, MPs, they should give back their government officers, government vehicles, all those things. So you cannot call police, yaar ek din aa jao. Okay. So violation of model code of conduct. So this happened during that West Bengal election. So some two election officers, they went in BJP's car. Okay, so that is how the issues will come out and you can remember the things. Okay, then in what other cases the elections are being nullified? Himasoran, Hemant Soren. Okay. Ah, yes, yes. Oh, like he was involved in a government contract. So that is why. So that is also in the Office of Profit clause. May you have violation of Office of Profit clause. Office of Profit clause in all these cases. And so there are some 25 acts. So if you are being convicted under those acts also, your election will be nullified. Atrocities Act is there. or might be Domestic Violence Act. So all those like heinous crimes, if you are indulging, so then also your election will be nullified. Then what remedy is available? Okay, so once the election is nullified, so what remedy we have? So what all remedies? So we have by-elections. Okay, so countermanding of election. Countermanding of election. Okay, next. So we have courts of law. Election petitions are also remedies. So even if they have been declared, they can appeal. So election petitions. Okay. Then any other? Okay. Yes. Uh-huh. Okay. So we will write what remedy is available. Okay. So technology. So we'll put it in conclusion. So body में formal लिखेंगे. So the current whatever we have. So that we will write in. Okay. So countermanding by elections, election petition only these are remedies. Okay. Because once he is being declared void, so we can't do anything. Only by election is the remedy. So वो election को we can't bring it back. Okay. Then yes. So in this context, I don't think it would be okay. So now it is like so the candidate should be sensitized for proper filing of nominations, and we should make sure the use of Neta app and all, and we should declare the assets properly. Election expenditure, so that is also a criteria. If they have spent more than the required amount, even then it would be declared void. So that election expenditure should be minimal. Okay, so all these you can bring in, and you can bring in Aam Aadmi Party's famous voluntary disclosure of funds. So they will voluntarily put on the website that these and these are the funds we have got. So after they started, all political parties they will disclose that. Okay, electoral bonds. Okay, so in enough like we write 2 to 3 ads. Enough. Okay, then discuss the essential conditions for the exercise of legislative powers by governor. Discuss the legality of re-promulgation of ordinances by governors without placing them before the legislature. So now a brief introduction on governor. Governor, the head of the provincial state or might be a gubernatorial position. So which is being more a controversial positions now. Okay. Then so exercise of the discretion, the essential conditions. Okay, so what are his conditions to exercise legislative powers? When session. So when there is absence of legislature, he can promulgate ordinance. So exercise of legislature is the ordinance making power itself. Okay. So absence of legislature or during hung assemblies. So when there is hung assembly and whenever they are unable to make a government, so even then they can promulgate ordinances. Okay, then in case of emergencies, so emergency in the sense not constitutional one. So in case of exigencies, like there is a need to pass a law. Okay, so and the assembly of the state legislature takes time. Best example is your Nirbhaya Act. So when the Nirbhaya protest was going on, so both houses were in the session. But now Manmohan Singh thought like, if I introduce this bill, so it takes 5 years to be passed again. So they halted the session and they promulgated ordinance. Nirbhaya Act was passed as an ordinance. So that comes with a speedy leg up. So they will bypass the legislature first and then they will get the assent. So during such exigencies, we can pass when there is exigency and there is a national or international obligation to come up with a law, then governor can go up with the ordinance. Okay. Then, so 3 points enough. Now, discuss the legality of the promulgation. Okay. So, give example of DC Wadhwa case. Okay. So, best example Bihar. So, DC Wadhwa case and Krishna Kumar case. Okay, both with respect to Bihar itself. Okay. So, Supreme Court said ordinance is repeated promulgation of ordinance is a fraud on the constitution. Okay. So, some more than 324 times one ordinance was promulgated. So, this is not legal ones. Okay. So, DC Wadhwa case and second Krishna Kumar case. So, in Krishna Kumar case, again the same Bihar state Supreme Court said it forms the constitutional duty of every citizen to approach the court of law in case of repeated promulgation of ordinance. Okay. So, every citizen should be alerted if there is repeated promulgation of ordinances. Okay. So, might be due to political reasons or might be to overpower the state legislature. So, or might be when the national party has one party in ruling and state party is different. So, now to bypass them. So, in all these areas, the promulgation of ordinances come and all those are illegal. Okay. So, the legality is not there when repeated promulgation of ordinances are there and despite the legislature's presence. Okay. So, just 3 paragraphs there and 3 paragraphs below enough. Okay. So, point wise, I don't think you have content in this. And lastly, so the governor being a decorative position, so it should not be the agent of central ruling party. It should be the agent of central government. And the recent incidents where the governor openly criticizing or abusing the political representatives of the state, so it should be avoided. So don't bring the names of West Bengal governor or Manipur governor, all those. Okay, just say that. So they should not indulge in all those things. Okay. Then, well, the national political parties in India favor centralization. Regional parties they favor state autonomy. So obvious. So it is there and it is their power. Okay. So now, what introduction you will give? We have federalism. Yes. State. Okay. So we can say M.K. Stalin. He said that interstate commission should be meeting frequently and any important bill that is passed in the center should be first placed in the interstate council. So central government should make sure that the interstate council meets regularly and any important bill should be placed on that. Okay, so especially these farm bills, citizenship amendment act, all those things. So let everyone be sensitized over that. So on this context, we can say that so India is a unitary or might be sui generis federalism or might be federalism with central tendencies. So all those we can say. And then so central government's argument. Why central government wants centralization? So voting base we will not get into because like what is different. So we have so many other things like one is the financial power, funds, or might be the unified formulation of policies, or might be say equal development of the nation. So central government will cannot tolerate one state growing with a high speed and other states lagging behind. So uniform formulation of policies or might be egalitarian development. So that is one criteria where centralization should be there. And second one to avoid secessionist tendencies. So to avoid regionalism, sons of the soil mentality. Okay. So for that also you can say. So we can take Ronald Watts. He says that it is good for India to be centralized to avoid balkanization. So if India was not a centralized government, So it would have been a Balkan state now. So it would have scattered into pieces. Okay, so Ronald Watts. Okay, it is good for India to be federal state to avoid balkanization then. So for what else we should have? So ease of doing business we should have. So might be if we have GS2, so which is one nation, one tax, then more companies will come into India and they will also invest, or might be economical or financial reasons. So that also requires centralization and territorial sovereignty and integrity of nation. So that requires Indira Gandhi gave Kachativo Island to Sri Lanka without asking anyone. And the very next day, somebody started saying, whose property is this? Okay, so territorial sovereignty and integrity. Okay. Yes. So imbalance cross for the sake of cross subsidization or might be bringing equal development. So unified policies and equal development. Okay. So then why other reasons centralization is important? Okay. Kind of 4 to 5 for 15 marks. Now states argument. Why states they feel that autonomy is required? So state argument on autonomy. Undue, undue interference. So we'll start with first. It is like flexibility of policies. So we should form policies as per the needs of local. Okay. So local problems, local solutions. So for this purpose, they require. And moreover, like the funds should be spent as per the choice of state government. Okay. So they should know to spend as per the aspirations. So Arun Mehra, who is this? Arun Mehra, former planning commission member, he said, it is disgusting that center is telling the state how to spend every single rupee. Okay, so that kind of centralization should not be there. It is disgusting to say that the center is saying the states how to spend every single rupee. And the states have a great concern with all India service officers. So you will put all India service officers to my cradle and I will nourish them till the 25, 26 years of their service. And once they are in the joint secretary level, you will hijack them and put in the center. So I am not reaping my efforts which I have put to train them or to give experience to them. So that is one thing. So the same happened with Alan Bandyopadhyaya. So West Bengal's chief secretary. So Modi got to know that he is a very good person and he is the sole reason for West Bengal governance. So he said, center ko bula denge. And Mamata Banerjee now said, don't go. He resigned. So he couldn't do anything. So many times the West Bengal Administration Reforms Commission, Rajamanar Committee, so many state administrative reforms commissions, they said that so all India service officers, so they should be under the state governments. So they should not be having some power in the central government to dismiss them. So like most of the powers you give to us as per the AS officers are concerned. So cadre management, pay scale, penalty, power to dismiss, all of them give to us. Or else take back your AS officers. We are happy with the state civil service officers. We know how to manage. Mamata Banerjee and Jayalalitha, they openly said that we don't want your AS officers at all. Then the state governments have a concern with your tied grants. Okay, so centrally sponsored schemes and sector schemes. So how will you say Himachal Pradesh that you follow rainwater harvesting, or how correct is to give tailoring machines for northeast people because cotton will not be grown there. So why do they sit and do tailoring when there is no cotton? So that one size fits all approach not all present. So you cannot give Madhya Pradesh people the fish nets because there are no coastal areas at all. So such things are a problem. So that flexibility in policy formulation you don't have. You can also say GST compensation was an issue. So you brought with the GST. I sacrificed my power, saying that so center will do something good back to me. And might be earlier before GST, I had that incentive, that tax reduction. So say Bengaluru and Hyderabad, they reduced the corporate tax and they attracted IT companies. And now they don't have that incentive because there is one tax for everyone. So there is no competitive edge for the states to attract investments by offering attractive tax benefits because of GST. So that is a cause of concern from the states. So we can write n number of arguments here for what is the state government's argument. And lastly, you can bring in a conclusion saying that India is a indestructible union of destructible states and we should go with proper coordination, collaboration and cooperation. Okay. So the settlements that arrived in the GST Council regarding GST compensation, so all those things should be taken as the limelights. Okay. Then critically examine the procedure through which President of India and France are elected. Okay. So comparison of constitution, no one reads. So polity means Lakshmikant, and Lakshmikant mein you don't have France. Okay. So now, so you give being Republican states, both France and India, we have a civilian head. Okay. And now election of president of France. So what is the procedure? Yes. So yes. So ours is an indirect election. So theirs is a direct election. So France presidential election goes in two rounds. So it is like 50% majority should come. So in the first round, whoever candidates who have applied, so they will go for polls. Okay, and overall polling occurs. And if no one gets 50% of vote, so say 33% is the highest, then 29%, then 10, 9, 8. So the last highest two candidates. So for them, election goes again. And when these two stand for election, that is the second round. And in that second round, anyone will have to get 50%. Okay. So if both of them get 50%, election will be nullified. So either of them, they will get 51 or 50 point something, and they will be the winner. So here, that true majority, that number 50% is being there. But here, again, even in the presidential election, so we are having like highest vote getters. So it need not be the 50% only. Okay. So now you need not have one-on-one comparison. So here you can't do that one-on-one comparison because this is not geography or this is not science. So this is polity and you have to explain this in detail. And then when you write presidential election, so unlike the France, we have indirect elections. So where only MLAs and MPs they vote here, and most probably here also the mayors and others they vote, I guess. Okay, so that also you can write. Okay, like that the notion of indirect election is present everywhere. Okay, and then we can say the first past the post system. So it says that president is not liked by even majority of the people. So even if a person is liked by 33%, so he will become the head of the state. Okay, so that means if a person is getting 33%, so somewhere around 66% of people they dislike him, and still he is a president. So this is a farce in Indian constitution, but that doesn't hold good in France. Okay, so then other differences. Yes, decorative head. Yes, so he is the true head of the executive, and he will be the nominal head. Okay. Yes. Yes. One. So like how they are elected. So we will give only one on the powers. So we will concentrate on elections. We will not concentrate on their actual powers. Okay. So enough. This much is enough. Like we will not write something extra than whatever it is asked, and then we can say that yes, yes. So like we are showing that Indians presidential election is not that good as France. So that is the critical part. Okay. Or you can also give some more argument like India's. So it is more feasible one than France. So every time uh, huge expenditure is spent in French election. Okay. So every time when the government breaks, so it is impossible to come up with so much of expenditure for election of president. So uh, India's procedure is the best one in under practical conditions. So that also you can write. Okay. So critical in the sense it is like we are favoring France more, and to some extent India is also being eulogized. Okay. So in the conclusion, you can say like so again we have to make sure that so some powers should be given to the president as well. So we cannot treat president as a rubber stamp. V.V. Giri famously said, "I will never be the rubber stamp even of God." Okay, so you can put his quote. So like there are some incumbents who showed their real power despite being presidents. So K.R. Narayanan said, "We will move towards presidential government." Okay. So because at that point of time, coalition era was going on. Every 14, 15 days, government was falling. So that point of time, so president came to the forefront. So we also should go on with such ones if needed, so that you can write it. Okay. Then discuss the role of Election Commission of India in the light of evolution of Model Code of Conduct. So you can write brief introduction about Election Commission. So which article Election Commission comes with? Article 324, and the Election Commission, how many members? So all those, and then the role of Election Commission in the light of evolution of MCC. Okay. Yes. Your argument, what the MCC gives and what the Election Commission has a role. Yes. The first one is the EPIC. So the role to prepare the electoral photographic identity card. So that responsibility falls on Election Commission. So before the notification of election comes, Election Commission should prepare this first. Else citizen will ask, अबे पहले कार्ड दे, बाद में वोट डालेंगे. Okay. So after this, then the model code of conduct sets in. So now what all functions they have? Yes, overseeing. So election observers. So we will have election observers in every state. So senior IAS officers. So like you can give example, India has one of the best election observers. When Nepal election goes on, when Sri Lankan election goes on, so the Nepal and Sri Lankan government they call Indian Election Commission observers. Please send them because we have a trust over them. Okay, so even Pawan Kishore is also called, but that is a different. But Indian Election Commission has it has protected its holiness in that context. Okay, then others. Limited expenditure, election expenditures. Okay, so track and trace of election expenditures. Okay, so role of election commission in inspection. So during elections, fixing the time scale, all those things. Okay, then so that on the day of election, so we will go in the flow. Okay, so before election we are doing this. So then fourth one, after election expenditure, training of electoral officers. So training of electoral officers, returning officers, then polling booth officers, etc. The whole machinery will be trained accordingly. Okay, then avoiding devious nominations. So when they file nomination papers, so the returning officer he should be vigilant and he should cancel all those devious and non-serious nominations so that criminalization of politics or might be non-serious candidates getting into politics will be avoided. Then, on the day of election, to avoid ballot stuffing, booth capturing, or any others, hacking of EVM machines, okay, all those. And after elections, so preserving the EVMs and ballots, okay, and ensuring free and fair counting of votes. So every party's representative will be standing in front when the counting goes on. So that is facilitated by election commission. So it will not be in an opaque system. It will be transparent. So there will be party in charge even in the polling booth and even in the counting booth. Okay. And after that, declaring of election. Okay. So likewise. So one case happened like, so as and when the election officers they go, so they will send election vote in the postal ballots, and postal ballots you can give to the candidate. Okay, so one case happened in one district. So the election was declared finished when the candidate won with 300 votes. Candidate won, and the candidate who lost in 300 votes, he had 400 postal ballots in his pocket. He directly went to the returning officer. He said, "Sir, 400 है, मेरे पास account कर दो." And returning officer said, "No." So now, if I count your ballots, so then it is like I am violating the model code of conduct, which says that once the election results are declared, so it will not be called back again at this circumstance. And people attacked the returning officer, but still he said no. So that was such things will happen. Okay, so you read that book S.Y. Qureshi, Making of Great Indian Elections. So he has written about elections very, very well. Okay. So in all these, we can say election commission is doing a very meticulous job, and you can bring in Dinesh Goswami committee. Okay. So who say that? So despite all these hiccups, the election commission is moving ahead with its own saga. Like, so they have their own history, and they are successful in conducting elections in the largest democracy, and so that is a most welcome thing. Okay. Then besides the welfare schemes, India needs deft management of inflation and unemployment to serve the poor and underprivileged sections of the societies. Discuss. So yes, so brief GS3 plus GS2 question. Okay. So now, so you can say we have n number of welfare schemes. So take this quote like we have no promises to make and we have all promises to keep. So we have launched all welfare schemes for every state, but none of them have been kept. So we have no more promises to make and all promises to keep. Okay. So in that context, when we are bringing so many welfare schemes, so how it is triggering inflation, how it is triggering jobless growth. So all this should be taken into consideration. So when you are giving free rice, free salt, free oil, free house rent, free electricity bill, why should I go for a job? Okay. So unemployment, and when you are spending so much for the revenue expenditure, automatically inflation will rise. So all those things you will write it here. So after the introduction, you will say like starting from birth to death, you have n number of welfare schemes that are being there. Okay, and now in this context, inflation is rising because too much of fiscal expenditure, and in the welfare scheme, construction is not there, only consumption is there. You are not constructing anything when you are giving subsidized LPG cylinders, subsidized kerosene, when you are giving subsidized rice, wheat. So every welfare scheme goes for consumption, not for constructing anything, except MG Narega and others, where assets are being created, and that will lead to inflation. So right, the current inflation, how much it is? CPI, WPI inflation, 7.2%. Okay, and after that come to unemployment. So might be due to over welfareism. So government is looking after so well कि हमको job ही ना जाना पड़े. Okay, so like too much of hand holding is resulting in the jobless growth. We are being satisfied or contented with whatever we have. And now Okay. Then, like what other steps should be taken so that these welfare schemes will construct something, they will not consume something. Okay. Your arguments. So welfare schemes should be targeted. Welfare schemes to be targeted to construct, not to consume. So like, so go for skill development, go for qualitative scheme, not for quantitative schemes. So give them cutting edge technologies so that they will do R&D. So don't give them the fish, give them the fish nets and teach them how to fish. Okay, so those ones. Don't give them the fish, give them the fish nets and teach them how to fish. So you give employment opportunities, you give skill development, you give them technology. So you don't give reservation, give the coaching, give study materials cheaper and free of cost so that they will study and excel. So such ones. Okay. So merit based subsidies, not non-merit based subsidies. So don't give loan waiver, go for PM Kisan. Okay. Yes, you can. Yes, yes, you can. Okay. So Madhya Pradesh, Yantradut. Okay. So Yantradut model of okay. So you can write all those SHGs. So you can say Ilapat Seva, Kudumashri program. Okay. So self-help groups. You can write this is also like asset creation. We are creating human resources. Okay. So anything where asset creation is going on, you can. Okay. So that will be way ahead. Then, do you agree with the view that increasing dependence on the donor agencies for development reduces the importance of community participation in development process? Okay, so donor agencies, so your NGOs, World Bank, IMF, so for all those. So anyone giving 1 rupee, India will go and stand in queue. So hame bhi de de. Okay, so why we should avoid all those? Okay, so you can start from that itself. Like India is one of the largest borrowers from the World Bank and IMF, including Asian Development Banks. So in that context, so reliance on the donors can be debated. Okay, so over reliance will reduce the community participation because you are heading and now start giving points. Okay, so yes. So over reliance comes with their choice. So it will not come with the community's choice. So World Bank asked us to devaluate the currencies. World Bank says that so your water, how much the Pakistan will use Indus water. So how much water of Teesta West Bengal should use. So that comes with international preference, not with our preference, because they are funding for all these. So World Bank it uh, mediated the Indus dispute. So that is how it comes. Then, so international funding comes with their own terms and conditions. So if you want OECD's fund, so your economy should be eco-friendly, or maybe it should be prisoner-friendly, or it should be human-friendly as a whole. They will give you 40 criteria. You fulfill all these things, only then I will give the fund. So all these will make sure that whatever the Indian administration has, they can't fulfill all these things. Okay. So all these will result in lack of stakeholder mentality. So citizens are not at all stakeholders. Something is coming from outside and they are throwing it on our face and we have nothing to do with that. So that lack of participation and stakeholder mentality will make sure that citizen will stop giving suggestions and feedbacks. So when you go and ask a person how a scheme is there, so he will answer you only when he has some role in that. So that citizen-centric administration, okay, so that will be stopped. You go and see second ARC, citizen-centric administration, what it says. It says like government will form policies, it will implement, and then it will evaluate. Feedback will be given from citizens. So this part, feedback, so citizen-centric administration will be hampered if citizen doesn't have any role in that. And next, so what else? So if you are too much dependent, so then we will have to listen to the voices of Greenpeace India, Amnesty International, all of them. So like we will be obligated to sign refugee convention because fund is coming from them, or we have to forcibly sign the labor organizations, child labor conventions. So we will be obligated for international obligations. Example, refugee convention. Refugee conventions. We cannot go for our own innovation. Example, Jaitapur nuclear power plant. Greenpeace India opposed it like anything. So why we should heed to them? Because they are giving funds. If they are not giving funds, so then why the hell we should care for them? So we cannot go for our indigenous policies. Example, Jaitapur power plant opposed by Greenpeace India. Okay. So various examples themselves, they will form, and you can bring in FCRA in the conclusion. So the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. So it will say that only the funds we want, or maybe genuine funds will be coming. They will not be pressurizing the government, and citizens will be given the first preference. Okay. So when Kovada nuclear power plant was being constructed, so the citizens famously said, like nuclear plant Oddu and Kovada Manaku Muddu. Like we love Kovada and we don't want nuclear power plant. So this is citizens' voice. And Supreme Court of India famously said, Constitution belongs to the very common citizen of India who have signed this Constitution and given to themselves. So this voice will be listened, not World Bank IMF's voice. So that you will get in conclusion. Okay. So anything, even in Jaitapur, the slogan was there. Even when Kokso Vedanta was constructed in Gonds region, Odisha, so there was a very high opposition. When Tata Nano came in West Bengal, there was opposition. So any example you can write. So all those foreign funding donor agencies we have to curb. So produce from within and then spend. So for that, taxation and our contribution, charitable institutions, so all those things should be sensitized. Then the Right of Children to Free and Compulsory Education Act 2019 remains inadequate in promoting incentive-based system for children's education without generating awareness about importance of schooling. Analyze. Okay. So what is the meaning of this? UPSC has this habit. It will copy the whole statement. बीच में analyze डाल देंगे question बन गया. Okay. So it is saying that how will you analyze? Like it is inadequate in promoting incentive-based schemes. Okay, and awareness about the importance. So one is like we are pushing down the throat the education system. We are not creating incentives, and we are not telling the importance of schooling to them. Okay, so we can briefly say about Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan and others, and say that so the Right to Education Act failed to incentivize the education because so your arguments. Financing how? Quality education. Okay. Okay. Then any other? So why RTE failed to incentivize the children about education? So one thing is infrastructure. Yes. So lack of. So midday meal scheme was introduced to incentivize. तो पढ़ने तो नहीं खाना खाने तो आएंगे but the lack of proper quality of food, lack of proper taste. So you can give some case studies. So in Bihar only salt and rice is being served. Okay. So the midday meal scheme, the quality of midday meal scheme failed to attract the students. Okay, or might be the hectic curriculum. So that failed to incentivize students, failed to attract students. Supreme Court famously said, so you have to reduce the bag weight of the students. So it is also the right to life, right to dignified life comes with right to reduced weight of our bag. So books. Yes, yes, archaeology, yes, good one. And then, so how we fail to incentivize our teachers? Yes, teachers. So our teachers they failed to come, and our teachers they had a devilish outlook. So देखते हुए लगता है कि चुड़ैल है. Okay, so we didn't have a friendly outlook. So that teacher-pupil relation was not. And lastly, the early childhood care was not there. So from childhood, the child is happy when he is home, and now suddenly after 7 8 years, you are pushing him to school, he won't go. So it is like in that second or third year of age, you will push him to nursery first, and he will get habituated to school so that school may they have good toys, all those things. So he will like to go to the school first. After giving toys, you take out the toys and introduce books. So that is the role of early childhood care. If this is not there, so suddenly you put the heavy bag, so school he will not. Okay, so lack of early childhood care. All these didn't incentivize students. Students didn't like to come to school. Okay, then so what should be needed, or might be new education policy, or so we should incentivize the students. So give me good cases where students are incentivized. Okay, so West Bengal's famous Sabut Sati Yojana. It is like giving cycles. So if the school is far away place, you will give cycle to them. And in the pretext of riding bicycle, so students will go to school. So cycle ko marne milta hai. Okay, so Sabut Sati, this scheme got Google award. So it is like after this one, so many state governments started this Sabut Sati Yojana. Then learn with play. So play and learn curriculum like your handicrafts, art and crafts, all are being given. Yoga is being taught. Okay. Happiness curriculum was good one. Yes. Okay. So sports was encouraged. Okay. Then adult tinkering labs. So we will concentrate for compulsory education. So adult tinkering. Yes, sir. That is for adult education, might be not primary. Okay. Then yes, smart classes and better teacher to student interaction. Okay. Then any others? Huh? Report cards are given. Okay, report cards वो ज्यादा डर लगता है, incentivize नहीं करता है. Okay. So then any others? Okay. So कंपल्सरी एजुकेशन में लाइक बच्चों को पकड़ना मुश्किल है, माँ बाप को कैसे पकड़े? Yes, council. Like we'll write in word. So like we will say, so along with this, parents should be counseled. Like they will not make their children to go for child labor. So they will make them to educate. Okay, so that one you can bring in Sukanya Samruddhi bonds. Okay, so that you can write. Yes. Yes. Now it has come. Okay. So parent meetings are being held. Yes. Yes, it is. It is at least in paper. Okay. So all those you can write good cases which has to be implemented. So anyway, like a good practical answer, you can write it here. And I think only this much. Okay. So all the best. Okay. So inculcate all these things in your answers. Yeah, good luck. Nice one. Okay.